ListenLayer operates based on a set of listeners which can be enabled for your website. Think of a listener as a specific sensor that sits on your website and waits for activity to occur, takes that activity and pushes it into the data layer as structured data to power your web analytics. Listeners can be built for specific applications, such as form or chat tools that you already use on your website. They can also be built for specific user activity that marketers and webmasters care about. For example, we have a user source listener, which automatically identifies the traffic source that a user comes from, for example, organic search or a specific paid search channel, and pushes that information into the data layer when that user's session begins. Another example of this is the listener, which automatically collects URL parameters when a user visits your website and makes those available inside of the data layer. When you first implement ListenLayer, none of these listeners will be enabled. You'll need to search the library and enable those. Let's take a look at the user source listener. When it's first enabled, none of the features of the listener are actually turned on. Think of a feature as a specific function within the listener. Every listener has at least one activity feature. The activity features are the ones that generate specific data layer information. They listen for that activity on your website and create this structured data. Tools such as Google Tag Manager operate based on the data layer. So you can fire tags when a specific event is pushed into the data layer, or even when a specific event that contains a specific variable is pushed into the data layer. You can also capture those variables and use those inside of your tracking through Google Tag Manager. Now, other features and functions within a listener do not necessarily directly push information into the data layer. For example, the browser storage feature allows you to actually capture information from a data layer event and store that in the browser. Browser storage can come in the form of cookies, local storage, or session storage, each of which has different rules around how they persist. In addition, you can enable custom data layer values, which allows you to write rules that push custom values into the data layer. This is a very advanced and powerful feature within ListenLayer. Most listeners also contain a monitoring feature, which allows you to write rules to receive notifications when specific events or values appear in the data layer. And also data layer reporting, which allows you to collect data around activities on your website. Certain plans even allow you to store values from the data layer into your reporting. So the first step when turning on ListenLayer is to ensure that the domain of your website is properly defined, that you've placed the simple tracking script through Google Tag Manager on your website. And once that's done, jump into our library of listeners, enable the listeners that you'd like to utilize, and then turn on their specific features.